Good afternoon. I don't see me. But anyway, good afternoon, my villagers. It is indeed a blessing to be back with you this afternoon. I want to thank my team, Sheila, my producer, Juanita, my advisor, my promo crew, Elijah, Halim, and Chastity, and of course my engineer, King Norm. And my co-host for today, oh my goodness, I didn't erase that name, Trish. Now, what is it?
Yasin Ali.
Yasan Ali. I'll explain this to you later. But in any case, I'll talk about him later. And of course, I'm Ruby Williams Sharvage, your unapologetic amateur, looking for experts in Africanism. Now, I personalize this title because when I say I'm an unapologetic amateur, that means I do not know or do not have the skills, the expertise to be part of what I conceptualize as a specialized unit consisting of experts who have studied in depth the cause, effect, and solution for what ails us. See, I'm an expert in living black. I live black every day. I get up in the morning and my blackness confronts me on every corner. You know, racism here, racism there, and racism everywhere. Now that's living black. But I'm not an expert in, quote, black living. That's another keg of worms. To be an expert in black living means you have to not only live black, but know the reality of being black in all its ramifications. Now, that is just a little above my pay grade, so that's why I leave it to the experts. And that's why I have this podcast to bring those experts who can make that happen. And I hope I clarify that. As I said last week, and I continue to say, we are in some serious times, but we've been given the blueprint by our ancestors for how to navigate through these difficult times. And with God's help and our determination, we will survive and thrive, actually. So we just got to keep the faith, though, and work those two sides of the coin I spoke about last week. Now, one side of the coin, I told you, may be doom and gloom. I'm sure much of it is today. But the other side of the coin should be hope and praise. We've got to move into our purpose. You know, we all have a purpose here on this earth. That's why I'm doing this broadcast, my purpose. That's why, you know, I could be in Atlantic City on those penny machines or relaxing on the beach or romping with my great-grands. So I'm not here because I'm bored or don't have anything to do. I'm here because I feel the need to help leave a less cumbersome pathway for our children to walk down. Because unlike my generation and some of your generation, they have not experienced anything quite so blatant as what we see today. We are needed to provide some guidance. And of course, prior to Trump's ascendance, I thought my generation was sort of relics of the past. But I was listening to a young lady on a radio show the other day who declared we need our elder generation, called the silent generation, I think. She said, and I quote, you know, those who have been exposed to the era of segregation, post-segregation, Jim Crowism, government sanctioned racism, we need them and their input. And I was floored. So I welcome that call to the elders, and what I'm trying to do is lay the groundwork so those who come after me will not find their travels through these landmines as treacherous as when I came through. But to make that happen, I believe there got to be a new, more deliberate approach to our fight. See, for over 400 years, we have experienced and we have studied and reported our situation, but we have never, now that's to my knowledge, placed our unique situation in any kind of full scientific overhaul. And since I'm convinced, you know, or governed by the scripture that says my people will perish for lack of knowledge, I'm going to believe that means any true knowledge. I believe our deliverance will come from and through that true knowledge. And I contend that true knowledge for us in the complete study of our existence here in America. Now, our deliverance will come when we take that knowledge and treat it in the same way one would treat any virus. But as with other viruses, I've coined it the African slave virus 401. It requires a concerted effort to pull together those who have studied this phenomenon. Same as you would study any other major catastrophe in the invasion of the human anatomy. You put a name to it. I said the African slave virus 401. Number two, you identify post-traumatic slave syndrome. We've identified some things. Number three, study specialized catastrophes, stripping, rape, hanging, burning, separating families, on and on. And number four, develop a cure. Like the virus developed the vaccine. Ours could be ours could be called a dose of concentrated therapy. Now we're going to need that mindset going forward. That's why I'm trying to get to the youth. See, while my generation understands the full extent of this America we live in, our young people have been bamboozled. They don't really understand the whys of our circumstances. While we are the least in health, while we're the least in wealth, while we're the least in education, they blame themselves, and as a result, the suicide rate and mental health condition amongst our young people have risen exponentially. So it is necessary and it is imperative to do my part to help make that happen. That's why I am on this podcast. These young people have got to be enlightened. And to that end, as I informed my village last week, I'm expanding my podcast to include a monthly segment, which will bring the will bring the homeschool students in from Williams ACAP, who will share what the knowledge that they have learned over the month. And this afternoon, I have a young man, my intern, I call him, who will be assisting me whenever he can to bring a youth perspective to the table. Now, I call him also my bonus grand. I've known this young man, Yassine Ali. That's a new name for me. I know him as Tristan, but anyway, never mind. But I've known Yassine since he was a young boy. Now he's a young man. So let's show some love and welcome to Yassine. I'm going to try to put this. Am I right, Joe? Okay. Now, Yassine.
Yes.
I'm going to introduce our guest. And we might have some questions for him later, but I'm going to introduce him. Now, I would generally just go halfway, but this man is so heavy, this brother. He's been with us before, but he has such a resume. I'm going to read it all.
No,
Yes, I
no,
will.
don't read
Yes,
it
I
all.
will.
I'm interested in
No,
hearing.
not
This
necessary.
this
Not
young man
necessary.
needs to
I'm
this
interested
young
in
man
hearing.
needs to hear, and my villagers need to hear. Well, may not read it all, but I'm certainly going to. Okay,
Hey,
just a
I know
minute.
you've seen the movie Rocky, right? When Apollo was getting it, when he was fighting the Russian, when Apollo was getting introduced, you see how he looked over to Rocky, and Rocky was like, "Don't you got enough nicknames?"
Okay, I'm going to skip some, but I just want to tell you that Larry Ham has been a relentless advocate for African Americans and the cause of human rights and civil rights for all oppressed people for more than 52 years. Now, he was raised in Newark, New Jersey, attended public schools, and he was appointed to the Newark Board of Education, making him at that time the youngest voting school board member in the history of the United States. At the age of 20, he was also the youngest person to ever qualify as a candidate for councilperson in the city of Newark. He received his bachelor's degree and graduated cum laude from Princeton University in 1978. Going to skip a little bit, but that man got a long list. His impact as a student activist at Princeton is chronicled in the documentary film Blacks at Princeton. He was given the honor of addressing the United Nations Special Committee Against Apartheid. Upon graduation, he received various awards at Princeton for his activism and humanitarian effort. After graduating, Mr. Ham returned to Newark to continue his activism. He has served as president of the 24th District Assembly, founder and director of the People Energy Corporation, a community fuel oil corporation, and he is also, you see how far I'm running? He is founder and current chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, an organization called POP, a statewide independent grassroots organization. POP works for racial, social, economic justice, and peace. Now, under his leadership, POP conducted a 381-day campaign of daily protests for job, peace, equality, and justice. He has been leading POP's Justice Mondays protests against police brutality at the federal building in Newark, New Jersey. Okay, Larry Ham is quoted in the press and interviewed on television and radio. His activities have also been discussed in a number of books, including Nation Within a Nation. And he's also, over the years, he has received many leadership and service awards. In 2015, Mr. Ham received the Key to the City of Newark from Mayor Ras Baraka. In 2016, he was a National Education Association Human and Civil Rights Award winner, receiving the organization Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Award and many others. During each year from 2017 to 2021, he was placed on Insider New Jersey Inner 100 Power list of influential people in New Jersey. He was included on Insider New Jersey African American Political Power list in honor of Black History Month every year from 2018 to 2022. In 2020, 21, and 22, he was included on Insider New Jersey 100 Policy Makers. Mr. Ham is in demand as public speaker. We can imagine that. I don't have to go any further with that. And he has three daughters, Elena Ham, Nia Ham Clark, and Amana Ham, all of whom are college graduates. And he's the proud grandfather. I know he didn't want me to leave this one off. He's the proud grandfather of a newborn grandson, Eli Clark, the first child of his daughter Nia and her husband Jason Clark. Well, I tell you, now see, one of the reasons I didn't want to leave anything out, because it's going to be food for our young people to know that he started so young and still moving on. And he can stand toe to toe with anyone. I've met a lot of people, been a lot of places. But this young man that I have on my show here today, he can stand toe to toe with anyone that I've ever met because his integrity, his dedication, and his desire just to make sure that we get back to the place that I know that we belong. So welcome, my brother. Welcome again this day.
Mr. Ruby, it's so good to be on your show. And our brother, do I have this right? Yasin Ali?
Yes.
Yes, you have that right.
Yes.
I have it right?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's good to see you.
You as well.
And it's good to be here. I'm on the road.
Okay.
I want to thank your associate,
Sheila.
Sister Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for Sheila, I might not be on the air right now.
That's why I praise her so much. She's a dog. She is excellent.
And she has texted me, emailed me, called me. But I got caught up today. I got called to Princeton today for a press conference. I'm just getting back from Princeton. The students down there, they have been organizing for a couple of years now, trying to get Princeton to take its funds out of companies that work with the racist Israeli regime,
Right.
the Israeli apartheid regime. And it's terrible because, you mentioned I was a student activist at Princeton. In fact, we always stand in the vortex of history. It just happened that they had this press conference today And then Monday will actually be the anniversary of when I led a takeover of Nassau Hall at Princeton University in 1978 to get Princeton to divest
Mm-hmm.
its funds from another racist apartheid regime, South
South
Africa.
Africa.
That was
Yeah.
in 1978, almost 50
Mm-hmm.
years ago. So they called me down today as an alumnus to stand with them to protest Princeton inviting a former prime minister of Israel, who is definitely one of the most racist in that racist regime, who called Palestinians subhumans,
Mm.
call for all of them to be killed. Now, he's a former prime minister,
Mm-hmm.
Naftali Bennett. He's speaking at Princeton tonight, and students had a press conference, and press showed up too, and
Oh.
they asked me to come down to draw a connection between our protests in 1978 and their protests today. And one of the things I said today, which I've said before, is that for 50 years that I've been associated with Princeton University, I've never known there to be student arrest. When we took over Nassau Hall
Mm.
for almost 3 days, for two
Mm-hmm.
nights and 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
no one was arrested.
Well, you didn't have Donald
Not
Trump
one
on the
student
scene.
was arrested. No one was thrown out of school.
Mm-mm.
But yet last spring, when these students were protesting, students were arrested.
Yeah.
Students were assaulted by police. Students were jailed. In fact, one of the students is going on trial. Their trial was supposed to be this week, but their trial has been pushed to June. So, it's ironic when people say, well, things are getting better.
Mm-mm.
I
Oh no.
have to look at that with a critical eye,
Yeah.
because in 50 years, there had never been any arrests. And now all of a sudden, here we are in the now going into the second quarter
Right.
of the 21st century, and students are being arrested. And the students are being arrested because they engaged in free speech activities to criticize the human rights policies
Yeah.
of a foreign government. They have been repressed, and yet someone who's actually engaged in supporting the genocide against the Palestinian people, that person is being feted and honored
Yeah.
as a guest speaker at the university. And this is happening all around the country. So I urge those students, I told them, don't get discouraged, to keep fighting the best way
Right.
they can, but they are on the right side of
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And as usual, my university, like other universities around the country, are on the wrong side of history. And
Right.
as Fidel Castro said when he was on trial before, he engaged in the revolution,
Mm-hmm.
history will absolve them,
It
because
sure
it,
does.
it always is always the case.
Yeah.
People look back 2 or
Mm-hmm.
3 decades later and they say, "Oh, what a terrible thing that was."
Right.
Why didn't people speak up? Well, people did speak up,
Yeah.
but they were the people who were locked up. So anyway,
Wow.
I'm sorry to go off
No, but that's what I
on that
have you here
tangent,
for,
but
because we need to know the ins and out of whatever going on here. And one of the things that we know for sure, not that we haven't seen bad times before, but we never had a Donald Trump. He just sort of an extraordinary beast that has just dropped down.
right,
I mean, we had our difficulties through slavery, but that was one
right,
aspect of the American history. This was
right.
coming upon us now. I don't think most of the people in this time has ever dreamed that they will see something that Donald Trump is bringing around. So it's no comparison between Republican, Democrat. It's just nothing like that. He's a separate
Well,
by
we
himself.
we're in a period of fascism now,
Yeah.
and although fascism has always existed in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
fascism became a recognized political tendency at the beginning of the 20th century. In fact, the dictator Benito Mussolini
Mm-hmm.
is credited with actually being the father of fascism, not Hitler. Hitler
Okay.
was actually Mussolini's student.
Okay.
Hitler kept a picture of Mussolini on his desk, but it was clearly a situation where the student exceeded the master,
And that's
you know,
right.
exceeded his teacher, because Hitler actually had to come and get Mussolini out of prison. That's a part of World War II history most people don't know about. There was a German excursion in it. Mussolini had been in prison, and Hitler sent troops there and broke Mussolini out and took him to Germany and then reinstalled him. But by the end of World War II, the democratic forces in Italy overthrew Mussolini, and they actually ended up hanging him from a street lamp in Rome. I believe it was in Rome. I may be wrong about that. But we have fascism in American clothes. See, we all think of fascism, we think of Hitler in a military uniform with those long jackboots on, but not so. Every country manifests fascism in a different way. So we have it in the Trump way, in the MAGA way, you know, but it's fascism nonetheless. I mean, Sister Ruby, you and I, we in the same class. I was born in 1953 when apartheid was still the law of the land in America. People got to remember, South Africa learned it from America. There was no apartheid as a government policy before the beginning of the 20th century in South Africa. They got it from America, and they got it from Germany.
America has taught the world a lot of craziness, a lot of cruelty comes right out of America.
That's right. That's right. So we've seen the progress, and now we see the regress. And it's hard for a lot of people who were not born in our class. I mean, look at somebody that might have been born in the 70s after the Black Power movement. They were just born, you know, or even later, the 80s, you know, and so on and so forth. We saw what America was. We saw the movement push it away from that. And now we've seen these racist, fascist forces push it back. But it didn't begin with Trump.
No, not
it began even before Dr. King was assassinated. Really. If you read Dr. King's last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? He says in that book, he wrote it in 66. In 66, he said America has already turned its back on the struggle for racial segregation, and it's already turned its back on the war on poverty. So, you know, it's been like you driving a car, right? You driving a car 1968, 1978, 1988. Then you get to 2016 and somebody steps on the accelerator. The car was always going in that direction, but Trump stepped on the accelerator. You know, and here we are now with a person who is openly, this is not a secret. It's all happening in slow motion, right before our very eyes, trying to become a dictator. Sister Ruby, did you ever think that you would see Black studies, for which we fought so hard, to actually be outlawed? It is being outlawed in states around the country, in Florida, in Arkansas. Teachers are being fired for teaching Black studies. You know, at one point I thought everything was too. I thought Black studies was becoming too routine, and now all of a sudden here we are, and now it's going to be against the law. Just this week, was it this? This is Monday. Just last week, Donald Trump said he's going to withhold Title I funds. Those are federal funds to public schools that have DEI programs. Black studies is, in his imagination, DEI. So anywhere Black kids are learning Black history, you know, it's awful what's going on, but we got to fight back.
Got to fight back. And what you think about the protests over the weekend? What's your take on that? You know,
I think it's wonderful. Now, are there problems? Yes, there are problems, but there are problems with everything. Nothing is perfect in this world. Nothing. And you have to kind of gauge the situation. The point is, where there was silence, people broke out of their silence over the weekend, and more than 1,300 demonstrations were held across the country. When I was at Princeton a few minutes ago, I was talking to one brother. He was in Philadelphia. He said it was 25,000 marching in Philadelphia. A member of my organization called me on Saturday morning. He had business in New York. He happened to be in New York. He called me and said, Brother Larry, I'm glad I didn't drive over here because I would have never got out New York City. He said when he tried to cross Fifth Avenue, he got caught up in the demonstration. He said it was so big he couldn't see the front of it and he couldn't see the back of it.
Yeah,
And that was repeated all over the country. But it's going to take that and more. You know, that by itself is not going to be enough.
Definitely not.
But it is a good beginning.
You were going to ask him something?
Well, no, I mean in regards to him taking Black History out and saying
Get closer to you.
In regards to our children not learning it in school, I feel like it's our responsibility to teach our own about ourselves anyways, because who know about us more than us.
Right, exactly. Well, that's
so,
what we're going to be doing in this podcast. That's why I'm bringing another segment to my show, and it's going to be. We have a homeschool there, and I have to give credit where credit is due. I give credit to that crazy Governor DeSantis of Florida. When he brought up that silliness about we were brought over here and learned skills, it encouraged me, and he's talking about the woke it awakened me to do something about it. So what we did, establish a homeschool, which I suggest all of our people do. I know a lot of us are now, but even those that hadn't thought about it, establish a homeschool within your home for your little nephews and nieces and grands around there. Teach them their history before they leave home. That way, when they confront ignoramus like Governor Santos and the Trump and the rest of them, at least they will have a background of who they really are. But yeah, that's he's this week. He's interfering with the Smithsonian Institute, taking the history out of there. And see, one of the things, and I think Brother Lab, that my concern with this whole AA and DEI thing in the first place, we deserve anything that comes our way. But what I say was, our emphasis should be on reparation, because of reparation, at least we come to the table with equal footing because we have something. But when they think they're giving us something like that, they can always interrupt the progress. And as a matter of fact, white women benefit more from those programs than we do anyway. But if we got our reparation, then when we reach out for those programs, we will be doing it the same manner that the white woman would just be a bonus. Just be bonus, so they won't think that we have to have the programs that they really set aside for themselves, But yeah, it's a crazy time now.
Sister Ruby, I was speaking at NJIT a few weeks ago. It was in March. It wasn't necessarily a Black History program, but it was a Black History program. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they had me come in to speak to students. They also had Sister Deborah Smith Gregory, the president of Newark branch of the NAACP. She spoke also. But when I was finished, because I stayed around, the students wanted to talk, how it is after the program. They want to introduce themselves and talk. And so by the time all the students had got through talking with me, there was a whole group of staff people sitting around the table, one of the tables, and they got up. The program was over. We all getting ready to leave. And they come up to me and they take out their phones and they start showing me the letters of termination that they got from the Department of Education.
Oh my.
The program that I spoke at was sponsored by a department which was part of the university's DEI program. All the people that came up to me to show me these letters were Black people. Now, it is an incontrovertible truth that the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action and DEI were white women. But at the same time, even those lesser percentages of Black people who benefit represent tens of
Oh,
thousands,
definitely.
maybe hundreds of thousands of people in jobs at universities, corporations, and governments
Right.
across the country. People don't know that the zeal of the Trump Musk regime to go and cut in the most draconian way possible the labor force of federal agencies across the government falls disproportionately on Black people. Because Black people, although we represent only 14% of the national population, we represented more than 20% of federal workers. And if you add that to us being the last hired and the first fired, you can be sure a large proportion, I can't say how large, but a large proportion of those federal workers, 7,000 from the Department of Education. They're talking about cutting 80,000 from the Veterans Administration, thousands from other departments and agencies. Many of those workers are Black people. So this attack on affirmative action, this is how I see it. I'm just one person, and I'm not an expert. I'm just a street corner agitator.
No,
But the way I see it, Trump's main target is Black people.
Oh, definitely. He makes no bones about that.
Right, but he can't come straight at us yet. So he's coming in a roundabout kind of way, like undocumented immigrant. That's low-hanging fruit. Is you got to kind of work your way, because our struggle was so intense in the 60s and the 70s, and even through, we never stopped fighting. I mean, it was just 5 years ago was George Floyd, when we had more demonstrations. We had 10 times as many demonstrations as they had on Saturday around the country and around the world for George Floyd. Black Lives Matter was an intense worldwide movement. So it's hard. They know that if they come straight, it's going to be a Black backlash as opposed to the white backlash we get now. So they trying to be, crafty and go around. Let's get the low-hanging fruit. Let's get the undocumented immigrants. Let's go after abortion, because a lot of religious people don't like abortion. And then when they build up enough strength, it's just like war. It's just like when you're fighting war. You knock off the weaker forces first, and then you go for the stronger forces. So I was just saying that to say, because I've heard this many times, but it was stunning to me, because it's one thing to say Trump is doing this and Trump is doing that, but when you actually run into some people and they show you their termination letters, and they don't know where their next job is going to be,
that's devastating.
how they going to pay their mortgage, how they going to pay their rent. These women, they were almost all, well, I think it was one brother and the rest were women. They had tears in their eyes because there was hardly any notice. Like when they getting ready to cut you, they let you know, okay, we getting ready to do a RIF. You're going to have a month, maybe have 2 months. You might get a severance package. They didn't get none of that. They got a letter. 2 weeks, you're out.
Isn't that something?
And this is what we're going through today. And
well, that's happening.
my only regret about Saturday, about all the demonstrations, that there wasn't more Black people. And I think that soon we're gonna have to have our own demonstrations, but give it time. We ain't gotta force it.
I think that's
It's
what
like,
it is. I think they're
it's-
really
it's-
trying to give it time. Let them go out there and do what they supposed to do, because they've been on the back of us. We've been under enough dogs been after us for a while. Let them do it and see where it leads to.
Well, that's not what I meant. What I meant is, as Trump intensifies his oppression, because just this week they said they're going to cut back funds to public education. Who is that going to affect? Who are the majority of children in the public schools? It's Black children and Latino children. If depend on what city you at, it's more Black. Depend on the other city, it's more Latino. It's children of color. When they make these cuts to title, do you know how much public schools You couldn't keep public schools
Mm-hmm.
open in the city of Newark, Patterson, Clinton, Atlantic City, Camden. They couldn't be
Mm-hmm.
open without federal funds.
Mm-hmm.
Because these cities, they can't charge enough property taxes. If they charge any more property taxes, everybody gonna leave, and it won't be a tax base. They run on a combination of local money, local property taxes, state aid, and federal aid. Trump cuts back that federal. They cut back that Title I funds. There's gonna be a lot of teachers laid off, and a lot of the teachers in the black cities. These are black Latino. See, the oppression, I think Marcus Garvey once said, when all else fails, conditions will organize the people.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you a question, though. Do you think maybe that's what Trump is sort of waiting for the time? If you notice, he hasn't sent out any squads against these people who are marching. Do you think maybe he's just as evil as he is, just waiting for the blacks to come out so he can send his squads out? Because I
No,
really believe he's doing
I
that.
don't think it's dependent on us coming out. I think he's biding his time. I think when the time, remember when when the election was going on, or right after Trump was getting elected, what was he saying? He said the major criteria on him hiring people was going to be loyalty to him. See, there's an act called the Posse Comitatus Act. I don't know how many people know about Posse Comitatus. I actually learned a little bit about it when I was in high school, and I think it was in connection with the Civil War. Posse Comitatus says that federal troops cannot be used for domestic purposes. Why was loyalty such a requirement for Trump? Loyalty was the number one requirement because when Trump gives an order to the government, to the army or any branch of the military to carry out an order, even if that order is unconstitutional, he wanted people in place that are going to carry it out.
And don't you think he has people in place that's going to carry it out?
And he has some of them.
Okay.
He has some of them. But he's only, it feels like a few years. He only been in there 70 days. 70 days. It ain't even 90 days yet.
Yeah.
But it feels like 5 years.
Well, he said it.
I think
he really said it. He was going to start from day one. So we're the one that missed. He said it. He lies about most things, but he definitely said he was going to start from day one to be the dictator that we see what he's doing now.
That's right. That's right. And so I don't know the day or the hour, but I know when he has all the pieces in place, he gonna move.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Now, what were you saying?
No, I was saying that you were talking about his
martial law.
Him having influence with the army that he's not necessarily granted due to the branches of the government, right? But that would be an act of treason, an act of war.
Well, he doesn't mind.
Yeah.
Or martial law,
right?
And I'm gonna be honest with you. You said that thing that circumstances will change a people's mindset. I think that would apply to black and white. I don't think the Europeans would go for that.
Right. And I hope you're right. I definitely hope you're right. It is treason, but see, here's where politics and law intersect. They call it intersectionality. People said politics don't matter. So Donald Trump, people sit home. Donald Trump gets elected in 2016. He appointed 3 people to the Supreme Court.
Yes, he did.
He appointed more people in a single term than any other president in the history of the United States. So there were So there were already 3 conservatives there. So he appoints 3 more. What does he have now? A super conservative majority.
Yeah.
What did they rule at the end of last year in connection with the felonies that Trump was charged with. They ruled that as long as Trump is in office, he's immune from prosecution.
Yeah.
So he could commit treason. He could kill somebody.
Yeah.
And his people would argue that he can't be tried or convicted while he's in the White House. See, that's why he wanted to get reelected.
And we think he didn't steal the election. Why's people? Well, I'm just curious. Maybe it's a strategy. Maybe because I'm not a conspiracy theorist about no stretch, but even I know he would steal. Why wouldn't he steal the election? If he had all that it took to do it, why would he hesitate to steal it? And people don't talk about that. They'll either shine away from even saying it, or maybe it's a strategy they're using. But common sense would tell the average person that he would steal the election, all that he had going against him. Had he not been elected, he would probably be in jail right now. He knows that.
That's right. That's why I think one of the major reasons he ran to be reelected was because he felt that he could convince the courts that not to convict him while he was in office.
Yeah.
And the problem we have with the Democrats is that they just didn't put up a fight. Like for instance, Barack Obama wanted to appoint Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court.
Don't mention that man's name.
And what happened? What happened was, what's the fella from Kentucky? The one that looked like Mr. Turtle?
Yeah, I know. What's his name? The senator.
The senator from, what's his name?
I can't think of it.
Mitch O'Connell.
O'Connell.
That's right. That's right. Mitch McConnell refused to give Merrick Garland a hearing.
Yes, he did. I know.
Only time this ever happened in history. It's a courtesy of the Senate because the Senate has to approve a Supreme Court nominee. Mitch McConnell said that Merrick Garland would assume the mantle of Supreme Court justice over his dead body. Now, Obama could have made what was called a recess appointment. He refused to do it.
Yeah, they refused to do everything.
He refused to do it. You think Trump would have refused?
Please, give me a break. They could have.
Trump said, "I'm on point 3 people."
Yes.
on the recess. He refused to do it. Then what happened? What was RBG? The Supreme Court justice that died.
Yeah, that died of. She should have retired when she had a chance, and she didn't.
That's right. That's right. I forgot her name.
Yeah.
They begged her to retire.
Yeah.
They said retire so Obama can make another appointment. She wouldn't retire. She died. Yeah. What happened? Trump gets elected and he appoints who should have been. And what's the end result of this? A 6-member super conservative right-wing majority on the Supreme Court that ends affirmative action. For everything except the military. Check that out.
But Brother Larry, couldn't they have packed the court? Couldn't the Democrat even have packed the court? But see, they don't do things based on what they don't think the Republican will allow them to do. Well, if we do that, then when the Republican comes in and they do it anyway, So they.
Well, you see, the Republicans don't observe no rules, no protocols, no nothing.
What that is.
They just do what they want. And now, but Sister Ruby, what's really striking about this? They say history repeats itself. This is so similar to how Hitler came to power in Germany from 1938. Before 1938, they had a democratic form of government. It was called the Weimar Republic. They had a parliament. They had all of that. But they had one difference. They had a parliamentary system where you have multi-parties and parties got to come together to form a coalition government. Like if you win the majority of the seats in parliament, you don't have to form a government. You can appoint all your people. But say you win, but you only have 45%. You have to form a coalition with another party that had 10, 15% of the vote, and you have a coalition government. The way we let Trump come to power is the same way Weimar Germany let Hitler come to power. Hitler didn't seize power. Hitler was elected. Man, people think Hitler, they think he overthrew. He didn't overthrow the government. He was elected. The Nazi Party was the second party in the race. And the major party had to form a coalition. The Nazi Party was the next biggest party, next biggest vote getter. They formed, and Hitler made a deal. They said, okay, Hitler, we'll form a coalition with you and we'll make you vice chancellor. Hitler said, oh, hell no. You're going to make me chancellor. If you want the government, you're going to make me the chancellor.
Like
no, this is for real. I'm not joking. This is for, they were going to give him the vice chancellor. He got the chancellorship. And then in 53 days, they passed laws and literally destroyed the democratic government in Germany.
Sounds similar to me. Sounds like something.
There's an article that just came out in Atlantic Monthly magazine. People should take a look at how Hitler destroyed democracy in 53 days. And if you look at what Trump is doing and you look at what Hitler was doing, it's like they're going by the playbook. Like it's a playbook.
Same playbook.
You know, same
don't
thing.
My folks calling in. I'm just trying to, don't want to just, okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh, let me just call out a few names here while you're here. Sheila Bird, good afternoon. Villinger, Stephanie Stevens, and we got Phyllis Woodbury. We got Askiel. We got Terry Benjamin. Stephanie Lorraine Bonner from Philadelphia. I'm listening and learning. And Chester from Florida, good evening, very informative. Robert Cabbage-Stalk, we're watching. I tell you, Juanita, assalamu alaikum. Well, another one of you, assalamu alaikum. Lloyd Shivers, Trump is a Nazi. Well, who don't know? My kings and queen is Janice. Hi, sir. Hi, Janice. And Juanita McClure. Okay, I so appreciate my Villinger just to keep checking in, because I got the man who knows the business. I tell you, he is speaking truth to power. But getting back to the orange man, Trump, he is just the playbook. It's a Hitler playbook. And for us not to assume that he would do what Hitler did and worse is to be a little bit naive. And like I said, I don't hear so much about him having stolen the election. But when he was declaring that the Democrats had stolen the election 4 years ago, and he knew that was not the case. But he was planning then to prepare himself how to steal the very election that he accused them of. So just to anyone,
he stole all the elections.
Yeah,
the Republicans have been stealing elections
my goodness,
since 2000 for the last 25. In fact, I don't think there's an election they haven't stole. Now they say, okay, all right, he won the popular vote this time. The only reason they won this time is through voter suppression.
Well, still,
they've been working since 2016. They've been working. They have purged at least 3 million black voters from the rolls.
That's still an
and
election.
Trump only won by 1.6 million.
Yeah.
And if you go and you go on YouTube and look at some of the videos that are there, voter suppression, voter intimidation, changing all the rules on election day. You can't give people water to stand in line. A lot of people are senior citizens. They can't stand out there. Like, for instance, like in one voting district, they had 40 polling places. They dropped 40 down to 5 polling places. That's going to cause chaos, right? And so through tactics like that, they suppress the black vote. Also, they use social media. Yeah. Social media is a demon. Now, it's like fire. If you know how to use fire, it can help you. But if you don't know what you're doing with fire, you're gonna
And
set
they
your
know how,
ass on
and
fire.
they know how to use fire. They had everything in place to know how to use whatever they needed to get that election. Trump
And they
actually said it.
discourage because I hear a lot of our people,
Hmm.
and I'll take the heat. I know a lot of people not gonna agree with this, but I don't care. I ain't running for office.
Yeah.
A lot of our people suck up all these right wing opinions through social media. They
Mm.
be walking around here parroting everything the Trump people. I mean, you had some of our own people out here in the last election telling people not to vote.
Mm.
Don't vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we got to watch out
Well, see,
for the devil.
well, you
I
know,
mean, and
Brother
now
Larry.
do I believe now wait a minute, do I believe
Hmm.
that voting by itself is going to liberate us? Oh hell no.
No, right.
But it is one of
It
the
part
things
of
we got to do. It's like when
exactly
you have a war. When you're in war, you don't have one weapon.
right.
You don't just have rifles.
Yeah.
You got rifles, you got grenades, you got tanks, you got airplanes, you got boats, you got all kind of weaponry
Right. Right.
as to help you, tools to help you win the war. And in our struggle, we have all kinds of
Right.
weaponry to use.
Hmm.
Voting is just one thing, but there are other things too
Yes.
that we have to use. And one of the things I'm going to say this, I know it might get you thrown off the air, Sister Ruby, but
Don't worry about me.
black people need to start forming some self-defense groups
Oh,
Absolutely.
my
because
word.
these
Absolutely.
white supremacists are off the chain.
Hmm.
Down south, they haven't started up here. Well, they started in Ohio. They
Hmm.
are openly marching
Yes, they
through
are.
black
Yes, they
communities,
are.
and
Hmm.
that's just a test. They trying to see how much they can get away with. And
Yeah.
if they get away with enough, they're going to start thinking that they can assault us with impunity. But I'm telling you, in addition to all the other things we also need to know how to defend
Oh,
ourselves.
definitely. And we
And
should
we
have
also
learned that
need to
by
have
now.
self-defense. We
Oh,
need to
yes.
have self-defense units,
Yes.
because these people, these white supremacists, they're planning for war.
They
Sister
plan.
Ruby, I have never heard so much talk as I have heard in the last, let's say, 2 years
Hmm.
of civil war.
Yeah, right.
People are openly talking
Talking about
about
Civil War.
civil war. And it's not just on stations like this and programs like this.
Hmm.
You listen long enough to some of these mainstream shows, you're going to hear them say, is America headed towards civil war? We already kind of in a low
Yeah.
intensity
Black
war.
entrepreneurship is up
But
50%.
Hmm.
what
50%.
happens? What happens when Trump gives an order? Let's say he orders ICE to cross state lines and go seize somebody. What happens when the federal government gives an order that the state government is not going to want to implement?
Right, right. Hmm. Then you're gonna get the war going
It's
on.
going to be a
It's
problem.
gonna be a real
It's
problem.
going to be a
I
problem.
suggest to everybody, old, young, whatever, you better get on the range somewhere. Yeah, you know if they got if they got me thinking of it. I said no, 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 no. I may end up doing some crazy stuff, but I'm gonna try to get on the range and try to figure out how to protect myself. And I suggest that everybody, old, young, men, women, children, boys, they better try to figure out because we'll come too far not to have learned something. There was a time in our uh, uh, situation here in this country, back to slavery, when we had no choice but to kind of go along together. And we didn't even go along then because there was a lot of insurrections that they don't talk about. But we know now how to defend ourselves in ways that we didn't have the advantage before. First, we're so intermixed with a lot of them and a lot of things like the army, the police department, like the government. I mean, we're so intermixed, the neighborhoods. So they can't just come and
Mhm,
singularly, pick us off like they once did. And
mhm,
even then
mhm.
we fought. But we got to prepare because it's not, it's no joke out there now.
That's right. Sister Ruby, I'm going to have to jump off in a minute, but let
Oh,
me just make this announcement before I go.
mm-hmm.
On the 26th of April, April
Okay.
26th,
Mm-hmm.
my organization, the People's Organization for Progress,
Okay.
we're going to have what we're calling the Martin Luther King People's Convention for
Okay.
Justice and Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take place at Essex County College on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
um, April 26th, from 8:30 in the morning to 4 p.m. in the afternoon at Essex County College, which is 303 University Avenue in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
The purpose of the convention is to come up with a people's agenda for social justice and resistance.
Okay.
The convention is free, but we urge people to register in advance. If you go to the People's Organization for Progress Facebook page,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see the leaflet there that'll have the link to where you can go to register in advance. It's free, it's open to the public, and it's not going to be a normal convention. It's going to be a working convention.
Okay.
No, not going to be any workshops.
Okay.
We're going to sit as the body of the whole,
Okay.
and we're going to pass the resolutions. We're going to introduce and pass resolutions for action
Mm-hmm.
so that we have something that can guide us in our resistance work for the years ahead. So I'm urging all your followers, all your listeners, all your supporters to come and join us. Um, the convention has been endorsed by 155 organizations,
Okay.
and you can see a list of those organizations when you go online. I'd
Okay.
like to get your show, Unapologetic Amateur,
I thought
looking
we
for
were on
experts.
online with you last time, and I looked through the list and I didn't see myself, but I
Can,
had
can, can I put it
registered.
on? Can I put it on
Yes,
today?
you might. You better believe
Uh,
it. Yes, you can. And at the same time, we want to talk about your book that we didn't talk about. The Brother Ham has a
we
book
didn't
called,
even get to the book
I
today.
know,
Oh
has a
Lord.
book out. It called Larry Ham, A Life in the Struggle. You all pick it up. You can get it anywhere, right, Brother Ham?
That's right.
You
Yeah,
can.
go to the black bookstore and get it.
Oh,
Don't
go to the
don't get it through Amazon.
go to the black
Go to
bookstore. I heard
source. Go to Source of
source of
Knowledge
knowledge.
on Broad
Okay.
Street and
All
get it.
right.
You can
I
get it
and
I
there.
know that's
all
right.
right. I know that's right. I
Oh,
thank you so much for joining our space again today. You always bring excellent
thank you.
information that what we need. And for my villagers, I appreciate y'all so much. And let me just say again, I brought my sheet this time. If you want to donate, you can do that. I think it's always on my card, but in the case it's not, you can enjoy this program by listening to BKS1 Radio or seeing me in person on Facebook. And you can bless this program by sending a donation to Cash App uh, Ruby Shivers, dollar sign Ruby Shivers, and Zelle, Ruby Shivers 158 at gmail.com. We appreciate it so much. And we all just keep the faith and keep watching. God bless you.
All right. God bless you. Take care.
My brother.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.